Welcome to the Rising Consciousness Show, 20 minutes of soulful insights and powerful tools to elevate your life experience and create with higher clarity, intention, and vision. I'm Tara Antler, intuitive healer and soul coach.
And I'm King Gabriel, spiritual teacher and practitioner. And we are the co-founders of Ascension Academy of Life,
a global center for spiritual growth, intuitive healing, and soul alignment.
Get ready to blast off. Hello, and welcome.
So grateful to be here with you. We are going to have a powerful conversation with you today about consistency and what it takes to really show up for yourself, for your life, for your business, especially when you want to create a thriving life and business. It's one thing if you're like, I just want to half-ass this thing, so I'm only going to show up halfway, right? We're talking about let's show up fully because we want to create something exceptional that we want it to be thriving.
Yeah, something lasting, something that leaves a legacy, something that makes an impact and makes a difference, right? And when you're building something like that, a foundation is important, right? If you build something on a shaky foundation, well, as we know, it collapses, right? It gets dilapidated and then it collapses. But if you're really willing to build something solid, it takes that solid foundation. And that foundation that we're speaking about today is consistency. Right? Consistency.
And it's interesting because I was going to say in Q&A this morning, we talked about consistency from the perspective of what do you do when you have kids and you have a business and you have so many things going on. And one of our clients was sharing that she wakes up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning before her kids. And she knows she wants to get up and do a practice of some sort. But sometimes she hears, thoughts coming in of like, I don't even know what practice to do, or maybe I'll just lay here a little bit longer. Or what if I start my practice and then my kiddos wake up and then they interrupt me and then I can't get my practice done. So I'll just do it later. But then we know when we say we'll do it later, later comes and later goes.
And then that 24 hours of experience is done. And you haven't done the thing you wanted to do. Right? And that's what happens to some people. That voice that says, let me lay down a little bit, or I'll do it later, or nah, I could just do it maybe a little later down in the day. And you start negotiating with yourself is what I'm talking about. When that negotiation starts happening, that's over. It's over. Right?
100%.
So I found that one thing that I've learned in my experience, because as an athlete and growing up in competitive sports and that sort of stuff, I did that a few times. And I can tell you that every time I said later, or I turned off that alarm and turned over, that was a missed day. It never translated into me doing exactly what I said I would do. So I learned that lesson early, in a sense, where if that does come up and I realize I have that later thing, I have to, in a sense, step over that. Right? Step over that and do it anyway. Do it still. Because the moment that happens, or you hit that alarm or whatever, you're off. The whole day is basically squashed. Right?
And that's what we were saying. And then days and weeks and months go by, and then you're like, where did that time go? And I still haven't changed anything in terms of the practice. So one of the things that we were sharing today was that there was an episode that I recorded about just get on the mat. And we use that as an example today, because when I did my yoga teacher's training, the teacher at the time I was studying with said, I want you to get on your mat every day. And then she was quiet. And all of us came up with all these reasons why. We were like, I can't do yoga every day. What if something happens? What if I get pregnant? What if I hurt myself? What if this? What if that? What if life gets busy? Like you're saying to me, you want me to do yoga every single day. And you could just see everybody's mind reeling. And she just paused and she listened to us all and entertained it. And then she said, well, that was fun. And then she said, notice that I said, I want you to get on your mat every day. I didn't say, I want you to do yoga every day. And we use that today as an example because I said sometimes you need to just, whether it's a mat, whether it's a cushion, whether it's those faux fur rugs that you get on, just to have something that you're like, no matter what, I'm going to get on that mat. I'm going to sit down on that cushion. I'm going to go to that sacred place to do my thing. And even if you just sit there and you do nothing, you building up that consistency to just show up is enough, because what that does is it starts to build a pattern in your mind and your brain that says, I'm showing up. I'm showing up for myself. I'm showing up for my life. I'm showing up for this thing that I'm going to do. And even if you sit there and do nothing for the first 5 minutes or even 3 minutes, you will be inspired to do something. You're either going to meditate, some sort of inspiration is going to come, you're going to feel the essence of Creator God, the infinite, the divine, rush through and say, okay, let's meditate, let's pray, let's set some intentions. What do you want? And you'll find yourself in a practice. So sometimes I think people get stuck on, well, I don't know what practice to do.
Yeah, that's a good one. You
right?
know, I look at that the same way. You know, just committing to that thing every single day is huge, because even if, let's say, you're a person that does a full workout most days and you're like blasting and you're gung-ho, and then one day you just don't feel like it, because that's really what it comes down to, right? You're like, oh, I don't feel like doing all that today, right? But the moment that hits, let's say instead of that you sit and you meditate for a bit, and then after meditating for a bit you just feel relaxed, and then from that relaxed posture you just decide, you know what, let me turn over and do a few push-ups or something. Simple, right? As simple as that. And you do that few push-ups. You know what you've done? You've taken a step towards your goal still, right? Now, it might be the big step that you wanted to take that day, but that day you might be a little sore, right? So you take a mini step, and your mind is still committed. You know you're moving in the direction of your goal, not moving in the opposite direction. And that totally matters. It totally matters, because even if it's insignificant to you on the grand scale, just because you took that step in your mind still feels like, yes, we're still headed there. Yes, I'm committed. Yes, I'm still on track. And that translates into you feeling better and moving forward still. So it's something worth doing, even if you can't do the whole thing you wanted to do that day. The simple act of getting on the mat, like Tara says, is a commitment in your mind to completing, to going straight for the goal. You haven't given up. The only time you give up, the only time you really fail, as they say, is if you stop doing what you intended to do. That's the only time. Beyond that, you're actually moving towards your goal. You're moving, even if it's baby steps.
And one of the other clients today, she said, I remember that conversation that you had months ago. And she goes, so I took that on as a practice where I rolled out my mat every single morning and I sat on it. And she said, and some mornings, all I could do was a cat-cow and sit and meditate for 5 minutes. But she said what happened was every single day, that little bit every single day, she goes, now this is like more than 6 months later. She said, I have this habit, a positive habit and a positive framework now where I want to get up. Even if my ego is saying, nah, sleep in, or nah, do this. I want to get up and go do that thing, because she goes, I know how great I feel afterwards. And it's easier now to actually get on the mat than to not get on the mat. And I found the same thing this morning, you know, like since we got down here, we're in Mexico while we're recording this. And yesterday morning, it was an interesting get up and do yoga morning, because I went down and then I think all the kids were up and they needed me and needed something. So I was like, okay, well, that was a bust, but at least I sat on my mat. I sat on my mat for 5 minutes, and then one of the kiddos came down. This morning, I was like dedicated to it. I'm like, okay, I'm getting up before everybody else. And I did. I woke up before everybody else, and then I laid there and I stared out the window for a few minutes. And I was setting some intentions, and I was doing some prayers. And then all of a sudden, one of the twins, Chase, stirred. And I thought, oh, and you could almost hear it, right? And so here's where I want you to pay attention to your own hang-ups, the things that come in the way sometimes when you're like, okay, I'm going to go do the thing. And then maybe your mind starts saying something like, oh, now Chase is up. So now I'm going to have to get breakfast for him. Now I'm going to have to do this. Now I'm probably not going to be able to do that yoga practice that I wanted to do, because he's going to want umpteen things. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to include him in my yoga practice. So this is where sometimes you have to like work around the ego. You got to work around those thoughts that are going to pull you back and limit you. So I was like, hey buddy, what do you want for breakfast? And we went through the options, and he said, I want an apple cut up. And I said, okay, great. Do you want to bring your apple down to the beach, down to the water? And I said, mommy's going to do some yoga and you can sit on one of the lounge chairs. It's really beautiful. And he's like, yeah, that's great. So he was all set to come. And then Gabriel woke up. So Gabriel was like, well, I got him. So Gabriel was with him. And then as I go down, I set my mat up. So now I'm like, oh wow, okay, I am here by myself now. And I set up my mat and I start meditating, and I hear him walking down the steps, and he's like, mommy, and I'm like, oh boy, again, here's my mind being like, oh boy, he's gonna ask for something else, right? And I kind of turn around and I was like, what, bud? And he looks at me with his arms wide open. He says, I just wanted to give you one last hug. I go, oh, of course. I was like, come. So he comes down, he gives me a big hug. He goes, have a good yoga session. I said, thanks, baby. And it's just me, okay? It's just me having this yoga session. And he goes, I want to have a good yoga session. I was like, thanks, baby. He goes, you look so beautiful. I was like, thank you. He goes, have a good time. Okay, thank you. And he gives me one last time. So he became a part of, because I wasn't resisting, he became a part of the practice for me in that moment, which deepened love, which opened my heart, which allowed the practice to be really loving and beautiful. And I actually had a beautiful 40-minute practice.
Yeah.
But if I would have went into the resistance, if I would have been like, oh, here's another distraction, or here's my ego voice coming in. And the ego will do that sometimes when you set really big goals or even small goals. The ego will come in and it'll try to make a muck of things. It'll say, don't do this for this reason, or this is too hard, or don't do that, or don't do this. Your job in that moment is to move out from those ego voices or thoughts and refocus again. Come back to center again. Come back to the practice again and say, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to show up. No matter what, I'm going to do this thing. No matter what, no matter what, no matter what.
So here's a different version of what happened yesterday as well. Because the no matter what is really what we're talking about here. The same thing from the other perspective as well was that yesterday I had a rough day, right? I worked out a lot and did a lot of stuff, right? Now, the kids were there as well, right? They came to me and they were demanding things during that workout. So there I am, and I'm having like basically a tantrum being thrown next to me. I could have said, okay, that's it. I quit and go and do something else. But what I did was I continued with everything going on, right? And they were able to adjust and then go by their mom and stuff like that. And that worked out there, right? Now, being that was the day yesterday, then this morning, waking up, I woke up, but I didn't get right out and go to it, right? So I heard Tara stirring and stuff and everything with Chase. Went and saw them about to go down, right? And then, Tara's doing her thing, and that's good that she gets out and do her thing. I was able to then come and help her Chase and support in that as well, so that she could have her day in the way that she wanted to start off. But then that also led to me now lining up the day for later, because the same commitment that I'm talking about, that no matter what idea or getting on the mat, no matter what. I played Uno with Chase and Cruz this morning, right? We had fun. That was their way of having a little fun in the morning, and they wanted to play Tag Your It. That's their new game that they want to play so much because they want to run around and stuff. So they're playing Tag Your It, and we then go to play Uno. We play Uno for a bit, and by that time, Tara's done with her practice. So then as her practice is done, I now go down and do a little thing. And that's how we sometimes would switch up. But that commitment, that no matter what, let's say because this morning was like that, then I decided to put off my workout and that's it, I'm not doing it. Then it wouldn't be done. And that day would go differently, right? But what I did was, yes, there was a delay, took care of the slight delay, and then was able to convert it into still doing it, right? So then when Tara did her thing, she took the break after that, and I went ahead and did what I had to do. And I got to swim this morning too, which was amazing, right? So it all worked out again, but it's because I didn't cancel it. I postponed it, but I didn't cancel it. And that's something we want to learn to do too. Even if, and this is where it takes a bit of will in this, even if we're not able to do it on the time that we said we were, we still keep it there to the point where we know it's going to be done because I'm committed to it. And we still find a way to do it. So I, in the past, had this thing where I would have liked to work out 7 in the morning. But if it didn't work that way, then the next gap or the next spurt of energy, and you have to be aware of your energy too in this, would be at 2. Because your body feels certain ways at certain times of the day as well. So the next gap would be at 2. If I missed 2, then I know my day was done. But there were 2 opportunities, and one of those opportunities had to happen for me in order to have it happen, right? So this is something we want to be down with in consistency too. We know we have these windows of energy where things are powerful and it's aligned, and you want to catch one of those, and sometimes you have to be in the no matter what attitude of it, yeah, they were screaming and shouting and everything at the time, but for that one day, they would have to understand that. And then the day after, it probably won't happen the same way because now it's come to the point where they get it, right? They get that this is the time where this happens, right? And sometimes we have to do that, right? It might seem mean or cold, etc. from the external view, but the point is when people understand those parameters that are set, not really boundaries, but parameters for things tend to work around that, and they work really well. So it's just about setting up consistency, not only with yourself, but consistency with everything around you. So that everyone knows just by seeing it happen enough times that, oh yeah, that's the time that that happens. So then let's do it at this time. And they'll switch up too to match it. So this is something we want to do. And if you're taking on any new task or anything that you want to do, I would say setting up a consistent time if possible that you're going to do it, like almost scheduling for it, and having it go at that exact time is extremely useful. Extremely useful, yeah.
And I would say, like, for my behalf, for me, it's no matter what in the morning, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that could be at 6, that could be at 7, that could be at 8. By 9, 10 o'clock, especially because down here it gets really hot.
Yeah.
At about 10 o'clock, I can't. Like, I'm done. So for me, I'm like, I got to make sure I get in this practice before 9:30 or else it's not going to happen for me. So that's kind of my window. I don't have necessarily a set time, but I definitely have a chunk of time where I'm like, this is the time for that. And then once that's done, then you can move on to the next thing and you feel really good in accomplishing that thing, even if, and this is something that we talked about in the session today in Q&A, was that even if it's 5 minutes, 5 minutes is better than no minutes. Right? And a lot of times, if you feel like I have to do this practice, I have to do this spiritual thing, I have to show up for an hour, that could be putting pressure on yourself. And your ego might find reasons why you can't do that. So if you're a parent, if you're a business owner, and I was thinking about a lot of the clients that we have in our community, a lot of them in the Q&A this morning are parents. They are business owners and they're managing all these moving parts. So they're like, I want to have time with my kids. I want to have time with my family. I want to have time for my business. I want to have time for myself. I want to have time for my partner. I want to have time for my spiritual practice. And you're like, how do I fit all that in? And I said, it's not a matter of the length of time. We have to start breaking this time loop thing for ourselves, because time could be the very thing that stops us, where we're like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to have time for an hour, whatever that is. And I said, can you choose 5 minutes? And I said, and really what's most important is it's your consciousness. If you say, I'm going to show up fully for these 5 minutes, your 5 minutes could feel like an hour. Mm-hmm. And then you might actually find, because you're so conscious and you're so present to that moment and you're being in that practice, however it is, whatever you're fulfilling, could stretch. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I just got 30 minutes of quiet time. How amazing. I stuck with that for 30 minutes. That's the simplicity. So it's not the length of time, it's the consciousness. It's how you're showing up. So when you bring consistency to the table, when you bring your consciousness to the table and you're like, this is how I'm choosing to show up, and I'm going to be in this. Like, let's say you sit down and write a newsletter, for example. You could carve out a whole hour to write a newsletter, but I find for myself now, I get so efficient where I'm like, okay, this is the moment. Everybody's quiet. Everybody's tending to something. This is my moment to write a newsletter. I can get a newsletter done in 5 minutes now. 5 minutes, sometimes 10. But that's because I'm very specific about the topic. I know what I want to write about. The energy's there, the information's there, and I go to town. I'm also a fast typer too, so I can be like, okay, done, 5 minutes. Other times, doing certain tasks might be a half hour, it might be an hour. Can you dedicate, though, the time that no matter what, in this day, I am going to get that thing done. I am going to do that thing. And when you finish it, when you complete it, even if you're like, okay, well, I didn't get the newsletter done, I might have to come back to it. Commit to coming back to it. But you got to show up consistently, because when you don't, it's kind of like leaving all these pieces half finished and hanging in the air where things aren't getting done. And then that feels really yucky inside too, because you've got all these floating balls in the air and nothing's completed. And that can stop our energy from creating, because then we feel like we have to tend to like umpteen things.
Yeah, that's exactly how that looks. And not only that, but you start knowing yourself as somebody who doesn't complete things. Mm-hmm. And if you know yourself as somebody who doesn't complete things, there's room for doubt to step in when you're taking on new tasks, thinking that you won't finish them and all these sorts of other things, right? So this is really what the consistency thing is about at the end of the day. It's about you becoming so clear that when you take things on, you finish them. That anything you take on, you know you're going to finish it. So you feel more confident in taking anything on. Mm-hmm. That's what it does. It builds your confidence, because you know yourself as the type of person that is not just going to take it for granted. Mm-hmm. You're going to do it all the way through. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And if you want to come and learn more about this, we actually have a complimentary Thrive in 5 experience coming up. And this one is particularly around manifestation, co-creation, getting things done. And it's actually called More Than the Money. We are going to talk about money and manifestation and all the things that you want to create. And we know that if you're up to big things and you've got a lot of moving parts in your life, you need to navigate all these moving parts, and you want to be able to do it in a way that feels good, where you're not burning out, where you're not feeling overwhelmed, where you feel like you're actually accomplishing the things and getting the things done to move everything forward. So we're going to dive deeper into some of the experiences that we've had as business owners for 21 years, with a family now, with a global company, with a team, with a lot of moving parts in our life, to share and pull back the curtain a little bit to say, here's what we do, here's how we manage all these things, and we still create, like we created a magazine, 122 page magazine in 7 days. People are like, oh my God, that normally takes like 6 months to a year to get one issue done, right? You can move energy pretty quick if your consciousness is in the correct place, if your energy is filled up and aligned and coming from the right place, if you're regulating your emotions, and if your mind is directing in the way that you want to go. And so we're going to be sharing these things, these components, these pillars in this complimentary workshop. Come and find us on social media and type the word Thrive. You're going to see tons of posts, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You're going to see tons of posts about this right now around our Thrive in 5 More Than the Money experience coming up. Find one of those posts, type the word Thrive, or send us a private message with the word Thrive. We will send you the link and you can register. I'll see if I can include it in the show notes here too. Yeah. And it's going to be a really powerful workshop. It's coming up on December 3rd. So we start on a Sunday, December 3rd. It's the perfect time before the holidays, before everybody ramps up into that holiday spirit and expansion and even New Year energy, because you know the New Year energy gets people revved up and thinking about what they want to create next. So this is the perfect time to be able to come in and learn some of these foundational pieces so that you can navigate all the moving parts in your life, so that you can keep co-creating in a really powerful way, and that you can show up consistently in everything that you're doing, because you can do it all, you can have it all, and it just requires a few little tweaks. And in this workshop, we're going to be sharing 5-minute practices. So for anybody that's like, I don't have time to sit in another workshop, we're going to be sharing 5-minute practices. We're going to set some context for those practices, but if you're like, I'm going to come for the practices and then catch the other stuff on replay, totally fine. 5-minute practices. Anybody can do these practices. So again, all you have to do is find us on social media, type the word Thrive. We'll include the link below in the show notes, hopefully. And we really look forward to seeing you there.
Indeed. It'll be awesome. And we'll see you there. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on another episode of the Rising Consciousness Show. For more high vibration conversations, meditations, energy activations, and tips and tools on creating your most exceptional life, we lovingly invite you to connect with us at academyoflight.ca. The website is www.academyoflight.ca. It is time to create your heaven on earth experience, and we look forward to sharing this beautiful journey with you.
You're listening to Rising Consciousness, yeah.
Woo!
Woo!